All right, we're live.
All right.
We're doing it solo today. Solo, no one can hear us. Just me and him today. What's up, my man?
How you doing?
All right, so tell them a little about yourself, how long you've been doing this, all that good stuff, please.
About myself. So
let's start with you.
Start with me. All right, I'll start with me. So I grew up in Southern California. I was shipped off to Guatemala by my mom. Spent time there, so I learned fluent Spanish, which was pretty awesome, and had a great childhood with my mom, just my mom. And then, I mean, I don't want to get into all the details about my life, but I'm an extremist, you know. I'm a certified parachute skydiver, pilot. I used to do bungee jump stunts, snowboarder, motocross. So whatever it is that is going to get your adrenaline up, that's what I love.
I didn't know about the motocross, though. That's cool.
Yeah.
Definitely an extremist.
Yeah.
So tell us a little about like your progression in real estate too. Like how does so
I read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Right.
I read that. I forgot what year I read that, and then shortly after that, I realized that's something that I wanted to do to start investing in real estate. Mm-hmm. And then we got some partners, parents. You know, parents are good for some of that kind of stuff. Yeah, good partners to have. And we ended up buying a couple properties. We realized immediately that if we really want to do this right, we need to get in the industry and become realtors. Right. So I became a realtor first. I became licensed. We started buying properties in 2000. I became licensed in 2004. Okay. And then we did really good for several years, and then of course the 2008 was scary, but I don't think we survived it as well as we would like to have, but we survived it. And then
not everybody did.
No. Yeah. We sold most of our properties because our partners, Rachel's parents, said, you know what, if anything goes haywire, they saw the writing on the wall. They said, if anything goes haywire, we need to make sure that we're out of this because we can't come back from this where you guys are young enough you can. And luckily for their knowledge, we were able to do that, and we got out in time, and we sold off almost all our properties with the exception of a few, and our primary residence, of course. So we went through that downturn, and luckily I had the foresight to start sending my application out to different banks and finding out what it took to get on the REO side of things. Right. So we started. I'll never forget. I was in my car. I had gone through all my savings. Nothing was happening in real estate. I was sitting in my car, getting ready to go on my very first interview in several years. And I sat there and I thought, no, you're going to make this happen. And I never got out of my car, drove back to the office, and literally the next day, a company called IAS, I'm not in business anymore, contacted me and said, we're giving you your first assignment. And from there, it just was gangbusters. We were selling tons we ended up selling for Bank of America and things like that. So we ended up, the REO days, the REO saved us. It was hard work.
So you're saying you were in your car, like going for a job interview for a job?
I was in the parking lot watching other people go inside, and I was like, yeah, you're not doing this. You got into this. You need to just stick it out. You need to figure something out.
Good for you. Good for you.
And that's what we did. That's what I did. So yeah, then the universe said, all right, fine, we'll throw you a bone. And they sent.
Oh, we pushed you too far.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah. So then from there we did fantastic with that. We did fantastic. We put good systems in place for that as well as for short sales because that was the short sale and REO days.
Right.
And then so then in 2011, when AB 284 came out, it was like somebody shut off the valve for listings from banks. Like literally. I remember it was October of 2011. They said the AB 284 got passed, and just the bank foreclosures stopped.
Right.
So then we're like, oh shit, what do we do now?
So tell them what that is, AB.
That was just a bill that had gotten passed that had to do with how banks would foreclose on properties.
So gave sellers more time.
Gave sellers more time, made banks have to produce certain documentation that the banks didn't have, so that caused a lot of issues. So basically, I realized really quickly that I needed to figure out how to sell traditional sales.
Right, arm's length, yeah.
Right?
Cash for keys was big then too, right? They were paying people to leave.
Yeah, cash for keys was, I had guns put in my face from people that, like homeowners, get off my property kind of thing. I'm like, don't kill the messenger.
Literally.
You're going to get out of here eventually. So, and I would do my best to try to help, especially tenants that had no clue they were getting foreclosed on.
Right.
They're like, what do you mean the guy hasn't been paying his mortgage? So,
and they've been paying rent.
They've been paying rent. So I would kind of, insinuate what they needed to do to help them along better, so they could get 90 days opposed to 30 days, and they get their cash for keys, a higher dollar for cash for keys. It was just something that you had to have a heart for people that were in that situation.
Right, no doubt.
So
what goes around comes around too.
Yeah.
In this market, so a lot of people, like I'm still talking to agents that are talking to buyers and sellers that are saying, well, the crash is coming, and those of us who are around them know this is so much different, and even though it's about the same, it's about the right time for something to happen, we're nowhere near that.
Well, didn't we have price drop? Price had dropped, but we've been like 9 months of this continuous downturn in pricing. So I think that's really already past us.
Right, me too.
Especially with the activity we're seeing now. We still have a shortage of homes in the United States. Builders can't build enough, and they're not building. They're holding back as much as they can't catch up to the demand.
No, it'll take years.
Right? We know
Decade,
that,
maybe.
Yeah, we know, and we also know that a lot of institutions have been buying a lot of properties up. So I think that accounts for 7% of the market. That's huge.
Yeah.
Tell
them, you mean like with people that buy and rent out and hold on?
Yeah, so they're buying and holding them. Yeah, so hedge funds, they've been buying these properties for a long time. And yeah, they're in the dark right now because of the way the prices have gone. But as soon as this starts to shift, and you're going to start seeing their offers come in again, I feel confident in that. So they've taken a lot of inventory that's never going to hit the market again. So that's a problem with the inventory for buyers. So there's just a number of things that have caused the shortage, and we know the shortage is going to be here for a while.
Yeah, and not only lending, investors won't go out that far and build that many homes. Builders don't want to again because of what happened, and also towns and states are all tightening up as far as what you need to do in order to build today.
Right.
So all of that is, in the last 15 years, we've only built 25% as many homes as the 15 years prior.
Isn't that crazy?
It's freaking crazy.
And they got supply chain problems.
Yeah.
You got to take that into account. So there's just a lot of things that are, I really don't see. I think real estate is still a really smart investment for anybody that wants to use it as a tool for retirement and for future wealth.
Especially, and I'm going to add to that, and I agree 100%, especially if you don't own your own little postage stamp of the world, like your own primary residence, get it soon. The interest rates, even Dave Ramsey, buy the house.
That's funny, I like it.
Buy the house. And the interest rates will come down, don't not buy the house. So, you got to buy the house.
Yeah, I mean, right now you have opportunities to ask sellers to pay for stuff, right. So take advantage of that. And then when you're not married to the interest rate, you're married to the house. So buy the house while you still can afford it, and then refi it down the road.
Refi down the road, and because they're going to change. And even with the Fed going ballistic with the base rate increases, right? Historical amounts from 0 to 5. Is it 5.5 now? 5.25. I mean, it's never been done like that. We've never had 0.3, 0.75 increases. We only had, the last time we had one in a year was 1994. We had 3 between last year and right now, and 2.5s and a couple quarter. Ridiculous, and the market is still charging. Now, that's going to affect the economy, and it's already affected the economy a little bit, but it's not affecting the real estate market, really, because the inventory is so shy.
Well, listen, so I keep really good track of that stuff, and everybody should. You should always keep track of your inventory, right? So inventory levels went from approximately 4,000 units available in, call it April of last year, right? It swelled all the way to 10,000 in October. You know how I know? Because I had a bet on it. So we had
Did you win or lose?
I came in second.
Okay.
So I said it was going to swell up to 11,000. Somebody else said it was going to swell up to 10,000. So anyways. So it swelled up to 10,000, right? our sales went from approximately 3,700 a month to down to less than 2,000. Well, now our inventory is less than 5,000. It's in the 4,600, 4,700 range, and under contract is 3,500. What does that tell you? It tells you that we're going to be back in that same situation. Maybe not as much, because the higher interest rate is going to cause people to they're not going to move forward as much. We know that, and it's going to cause them to maybe hesitate a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But I always refer to this. I remember the first house I ever bought, and the first house I ever bought for myself, I was scared out of my pants. I was like, how the hell am I going to afford this, mortgage payment, and just all these things that all this fear that comes in. But you gotta remember this: the lender is not going to lend you money unless you can afford the damn payment. Right. So use that as a tool to think about it, to think through it. I can get through this, and it's just like anything. The longer you're in it, the better off you'll be down the road, and you'll be so grateful that you sacrificed and you got rid of those fears. Don't make stupid decisions. Like stupid decisions. Back in 2007, I had clients that would tell me, I want to buy another property. And I'm like, what are you going to do with it? I'm going to rent it. I'm like, that's dumb. Your payment's going to be $2,000 and the rent on that property is $1,500. Why would you be upside down $500 a month? And I literally turned clients away because you just can't do it that way. And luckily right now those loans aren't out there anymore. Those, with the old interest only and that kind of thing.
No income verification.
No
asset verification.
So you have a pulse? You got to ask.
You're in. I remember that.
But if you at least break even on it, there's so much value to owning a property. It's your own castle, right?
You reduce the principal every payment.
Exactly.
The tax. Yeah.
Or historically, they'll go up in value, so you're going to make. I did the math because I teach a class. I teach a class to high school kids once a quarter, and the math is something off the top of my head I can't remember exactly, but over the course of 5 years, I think the difference between the renter and the owner is something like $375,000.
Right, with slight appreciation,
Right, with a very low appreciation.
Right, and tax benefits.
And I didn't even include tax benefits. I'm just including what they're paying down on the principal. The renter, you may be paying rent $1,500 today, but if you're my tenant, I'm gonna raise your rent next year, and I do, by the way. So.
They're great investments, but you should be diversified too. But if you don't, I'm just like 2006 and 7, it wasn't uncommon for you say, hey, how many homes do you own? I own 5, I rent out 3, and if you ever seen the movie The Big Short, see that movie because it explains, and you'll notice it's nothing like what's going on. And look at, I'm going to tell you something. I've been doing this for 39 years. This is the one time where I think we're going to see that, and instead of going down, it went down a little, and now it's heading back up. And you see the stock market do that.
Yeah.
2 months ago.
It's probably more like a stable, more like a 5% increase in value.
Yeah.
This is just my guess right now. Things can change, but so I still think it's a safe investment.
Definitely.
Yeah. So to answer your question, before I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, realized I want to get into it. We decided to start buying. Then I became a realtor, and then I fell in love with the business. So then we go through that process where we go, oh wow, now I got to sell traditional houses.
You got to have a presentation.
Yeah, they're not coming to me anymore. I got to go to them. So luckily, John Joseph was our branch manager at the time.
Yep.
And he said you need to get into the Mike Ferry coaching system.
Very familiar with that.
Whether it's Mike Ferry or not, you need to get into coaching. I think everybody should be in the coaching system. Mm-hmm. It's a system. And any good business has systems. McDonald's has systems. So
true.
So and it was at first I was very just like anybody else. Didn't necessarily want to get on the phones and didn't want to do the role play. Didn't want to do the practices and stuff like that. And now I love it.
Yeah, I think you even came to a prospecting school at Mike Ferry in around the 2002-3.
Yes.
I remember meeting you then.
Yeah.
You came across the school right over there on what is it, Warm Springs?
Oh boy,
It's a long time.
You're trying to go back.
Right next to the emergency room entrance to the hospital, right?
Yeah.
Warm Springs.
Yeah.
But anyway, even today, if you go down to his office, you've got an area where you stand-up area where you're on the phone and you're prospecting and you talk to expired listings and you do for sale by owners and you still do that stuff to get listings today.
Right.
Because it works.
My main three are expired, COI, and just listed, just sold.
Okay.
Yeah. I just have never mastered the for sale by owners. I have picked up for sale by owners, but it's just not one of my main things. I just don't feel like I'm as good as that as I am with other types of sources.
Yeah, and your sphere is obviously incredibly important. Tell me a little bit how you work that.
So I contact my sphere at least once a quarter. I call them, and now I leave voicemails if they don't answer. I always let them know that it's a business call up front, and then once we're done with the business side of things, then of course I talk to them about their personal stuff. I keep meticulous notes on all my I have my sphere broken down into my A sphere. Those are people that have not only used us but have referred us. I have my B sphere. Those are people that have used us but haven't referred us yet and are trainable to refer us. And then the C sphere is just people that we have their information for one reason or another. Maybe I met you somewhere, or I just listened, just sold, called, that kind of thing, and I keep in touch with them. But my A and B sphere, I definitely call once a quarter.
Right. And
I also send a text, like for Mother's Day, I'll make sure to send all the mothers a Mother's Day text. I typically do that before Mother's Day, And then I say stuff like, and this is true, and I'll say, I did this Mother's Day. I'll say, I know it's the day before, I know it's a few days before Mother's Day, but shouldn't every day be Mother's Day? I mean, who's going to
brownie points
to that, right? Yeah.
No
so
mother.
On Mother's Day, where they're getting all those texts from people saying Happy Mother's Day, they don't remember half those people. And I'll tell you who they remember that sent them a text before Mother's Day.
That's right. Hey, if it works, keep doing it.
Yeah. And then we'll do it. So my team is comprised of myself, my wife, Rachel. My son is also on our team as well. So we'll do like a little jib-jab video. We did one for St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, that's going to be great.
So the holidays, I like to send out a text to my A and B sphere. I think it's fun. And I get great responses and stuff like that. So
it's a family affair too. I love it.
It is a family affair, yeah.
All right, so that's how you work your sphere. And I'm just going to guess with expireds right now. I have to guess because, like you just said, we have like 10,000 homes in October. We only have a little less than 5, and not all of those are sold. So there's got to be a decent amount of old expireds from last year, right?
There is, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I've been trying to get back to those. I have, but not as much as I'd like to. However, there is still expireds coming up today.
Right.
So you got to remember that those expireds that are coming up today, a lot of them are ones that they went withdrawn conditional, so they took their property off the market maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 months ago when the market was tough for them.
Right.
And they don't even realize that we're in a better market now.
Right. Because if you watch the news, no one knows that because everyone's talking about the base rate and the interest rates being 2.5 times what they were, just 2 years ago. And,
right.
Which is crazy if you think about it. And you think about the shock that this market has gone through, and it's still cruising.
Yeah.
This goes to show you how healthy, even though they're putting a stick in the spokes of the economy and, car rates, interest rates, all of that, we're still trucking along pretty good. I mean, it could have been a lot worse.
Absolutely.
I mean, it could have been.
Absolutely, it could have been a lot worse. Yeah. But I honestly didn't think it was going to last 9 months, to be quite frank with you. I thought it was going to be a shorter period that we were going to see a little bit of a downturn. However, I'm just glad that it is turning back around because it really needs to. People need to be able to buy again, and the adjustment that happened over the last 9 months, I believe is done. And we're
seeing that too.
I do feel for those people that maybe bought at the beginning of last year through the middle of last year because they're upside down.
Yeah.
But that's not that many people.
For a short period of time.
For a short period of time they'll be upside down, but that's a small amount of people. That's what I think a lot of people aren't understanding. And a lot of them put a lot of money down.
Right. So they still have equity.
So exactly.
Yeah. That's the thing right now too. And I think that but here's the other crazy part, even with what Alberto just said, we still had appreciation last year. Like in Las Vegas it was like 8%. You know, it went from double digit, like 4 years in a row, and then it was starting to go double digits and then came down, but we still ended the year, and I think we'll do the same this year.
I think you're right.
6-7%.
Yeah.
All right, so the last one, so that's expired. What about tell me a little bit about the just list or just sold calls, because I think those are important too.
Just sold calls are fun for me. I like those calls.
Because they're easy to make.
I like them all, actually. They are easy to make, you know. And I used to be so afraid of the script, you know. So how long have you lived in this house? You know, and going down that road. However, when you get good at these scripts, you really start to get curious. And here's what I've learned. I've learned that the more you get curious about the client, whether they're going to be a client or not, and you just start learning about them, the better the conversation becomes.
Yeah.
Because they just want to talk. You may get a really rude person on the phone, but you don't know what's going on in their lives. You know, they could have just had some catastrophe, right? So you don't take it personal. And I always look at it this way as well. When I do find the right person that does need or want to sell, then at least they're talking to me and not somebody that is not going to take good care of them.
Right.
So I have that perception of that dynamic going on when I'm talking to people. You know, that's my paradigm.
Your experience.
Yeah. But I love Justice Just Souls because they get curious about stuff, you know, and you ask them certain questions, and you're like, oh, okay, is this your forever home? And you don't know what might get unpacked by asking a question like that. So
right.
is this, you know, if you could change anything about this home, what would you change about it? Well, you know, we just had a new baby, and we're like, you know, we're busting at the seams.
Right.
But earlier they told you they don't want to move.
Right.
So they do want to move. They just haven't made it a priority yet.
Yeah. No, and I love them too because they're, you know, when you've been doing this as long as you have, when you talk about a new listing, it's your new listing. When you talk about a sale, it's your sale. So it's easy to make those because you have the confidence.
Right.
And like you said that, be curious. I call it, you know, if you're curious about their favorite subject, them, okay, and like, you know, even your fiduciary responsibility says, I put your own needs in front of my own. When they can feel that you're curious and you want to find out about them, it's easier for them to open up.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And don't be afraid of that question, by the way. Where did you come from? Because if they like I had a guy this morning. He's like, oh, I came from Green Bay. I was like, oh man.
No wonder.
I go, wow, that must have been a big change for you, you know. And he says, you know, we had 52 days. And I forget what year he told me. 52 days of below 0 degrees So, you know, the guy's happy to tell me stuff about himself, you know. So now we're becoming, you're building that trust and you're building that relationship.
Obviously a cheesehead, so we had to be
Yeah.
Packers fan. That's what, you know, it's funny you say that because when they say, I moved from New York, my next question is, Mets or Yankees?
Yeah.
Or Chicago?
Yeah.
White Sox or Cubbies?
Yeah.
But 80% of the time it's Cubbies. But you know, like you can tell you have fun doing this too, right?
I do. And I tell you what, the more you understand the scripts, the more you really dive into practicing and role playing with other people, the funner it actually gets.
Yeah.
I was so resistant to that for so long.
The role playing?
Yeah. And I think most people really are. But you really realize the value, you know. So if I'm talking to somebody and it's an expired, right? A typical expired is they're going to try to get you off the phone as fast as they can. They're not happy. You're all the same. You're all a bunch of leeches. I mean, I can go on about what an expired is going to tell you.
Yeah, you're right. One step, sometimes even below used car salesman.
Yeah. You know that scum in the bottom of the lake? You're right below that.
Yeah, that's on top of you.
You know? And I'm like, well, maybe your last agent was, but that's not me. Anyways, but, you know, if you understand how to have your upswings, your downswings, how to continue with the script, you know, the biggest thing I think a lot of us do is we automatically think that they're just cut off to having the conversation and we end the conversation. They may not be, you know. You just need to continue talking to them, and I understand that how that must have felt. You know, I'm curious though, where were you going to move? Had you sold this property, you might find out
my
some
favorite
information. Yeah, you know, and so and then the next thing you know, and I get this a lot. I love this. I get this a lot. I get you know, I had 20 calls today, and I hung up on all of them. You're the only person that I'm talking to. I don't even know why I'm still talking to you, but it's something about you that I'm like, It's because I'm actually listening.
Ah, good for you.
Yeah, so.
You are. No, it's true. And you have fun doing it too. It's very obvious. No, it's one of my favorite questions from expireds were, "Where were you when my home was on the market?" You know that one?
Yeah, I do.
What does that tell you when they say that to you?
Yeah.
To me, it means I'm still interested in selling. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have said that.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was selling all my listings.
Right.
What was your agent doing to get your listing sold? Just turn it right back around on them.
Right. I love
Because that is true. I mean, how many times do we look at the listing and we're like, oh wow, so you took a picture. You took a picture of the floor. Like, really? Is that how you market a property? It's a $500,000 property, and you're taking pictures with your iPhone.
Well, my favorite is the one with the iPhone in the bathroom mirror. You can see the toilet, and you can see them holding the camera. That's a great marketing job. Matter of fact, those are great social media things to do. You do topics, and professional photos make such a difference.
Absolutely, yeah. And for those of you that don't know, I'm going to go ahead and toot my horn a little bit.
Oh, I'm thinking his name is. Well, maybe I'll let you.
So it was 2000. Excuse me. 8 years. I think it was 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I was like, man, there's got to be a better way for people to be able to see properties without physically being in the property. So I started investigating, and lo and behold, I ran across Matterport. Matterport had just come out. And Matterport wasn't even being used for real estate yet.
They're coming here to do an interview.
Oh, sweet.
You know Lucy, what's her name? Lucy? Yeah, Lucy's coming here.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. That's fantastic. So you know what? I grabbed the bull by the horns. I spent the $5,000 for the camera, big old bulky camera. They're still big, bulky. And so I bought all the equipment and I started doing 3Ds. And because I was, and then if you don't know what the Matterport is, the Matterport, it does a 3D model of property. So you do all these different spots with the camera, and then it'll stitch everything together, make a dollhouse of the property, and you can look at that property any way you want. Then you can click on it, you go inside the property, you can look around, and you can go, well, I want to go down that hallway. You click, and it literally walks you down that hallway.
It's pretty incredible.
So this is a wave towards what we should all be doing. By the way, is a 3D, because how many times are you looking at a photo? You're like, well, where does the living room relate to the kitchen, to the this? Anyhow, I took so many listings. I beat so much of my competition because I was the only one that had that.
You showed them that. So here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And then I got other photographers in town, and I encouraged them to get it. Just because I had it didn't mean that I was going to just, hoard it to myself. Eventually, they were going to figure it out.
Right.
So I encouraged my photographer to get it. Now he has it, and he uses it on most of my shoots. If it's a little condo, there's no need for it, but most of my shoots. So, anyways, yeah. And I think more, especially. And here's what drives me crazy: if you're a luxury, if you say you're a luxury agent and you're not using a 3D model for your property, shame on you. Because what's the number one thing that luxury people don't want? A bunch of looky-loos.
Right.
They got busy lives. They don't want just people walking through their properties. So that's a good way to mitigate that issue.
Right. Plus, those people that own those properties want to make sure everybody qualifies that it goes through. So it's a whole different process.
Anyway, so
all right. Awesome. Well, any other final? Because we're right about time now. Any final words you want to leave these lovely people out there in Facebook land? Which will also be on YouTube.
Right on. I don't have anything on the top of my head. I mean, are we talking to just realtors?
Yeah, if you're talking to an agent, maybe give them a couple things to be successful in this market.
Get a coach. Absolutely. That's in any market. Doesn't matter what market you're in. Even when the market is really challenging, you definitely should have a coach. But when the market is fantastic, you shouldn't get complacent and be like, well, I don't need a coach anymore. Trust me, you should always have a coach. And
people do get like that because I know that.
Yeah, and build systems in your business, because the way it should work is the system runs the business, the people run the system. That way, you can rely on that. You don't have listen. If you hire the most intelligent person to work for you, yeah, sure, you can leave them alone. You can let them do whatever they want. But the issue with that is that they're the most intelligent person in the room. They're going to leave you eventually.
Right.
The business hinges on them. So build a system so that you don't have to do that. Build a system so that you can hire somebody that
can step in.
Can barely do the work.
All right, well, thanks for your time, my man.
You're welcome, man.
All right.
That was fun.
It was awesome.